Now what about the legend of the War of the Gods? You'll find that legend through many of the ancient cultures too. Just one example is in the Pergamum Museum in East Berlin, a magnificent altar from the altar of Pergamum, the capital of the ancient kingdom of Pergamum in Asia Minor. The ancient Chaldean priests, the oldest religion in the world of serpent worship, established this great acropolis when they had to flee from Mesopotamia when the Persians came in. And one of the first things they did was direct a great relief around this beautiful temple of the War of the Gods, which they were a continuation of. And this War of the Gods was a war of the Greek pantheon of gods, but it was directed to be built by the Babylonian Chaldean priests. And as you look at this, you see serpents, and you see beings with wings fighting and trying to destroy one another, and some beings that are half serpent and half man. And it's just a faint shadow of that terrible war that took place at the beginning of this world. Some people feel that Lucifer's a legend, but I'm here to tell you that it's true. That Lucifer is a being that not only exists, but Lucifer has become the enemy of mankind. He no longer is the light bearer. He's the bearer of darkness. He's the enemy. He's the accuser of the brethren. And there's evidence for his existence in this. Remember from the legend that Lucifer took the form of the winged serpent in Eden. There's no other place in any culture where there's an actual description or in the existence of any history or any fossils found where you had a winged serpent, except in the records of the old religions in the Bible. And you'll find that there it describes Lucifer took the form of the winged serpent. Now let's go back to those cultures that have accepted this teaching of the serpent, of the immortality of the soul, and the belief that man evolves through evolution to become like God. The first place we go is Mesopotamia, the oldest culture in the world. And you'll find that in ancient Babylon, the first city ever established, their symbol of the chief of the demon gods, the horned one, was that of a serpent or a dragon. His name was Enlil, Lord of Demons, the serpent that waits in the path to destroy mankind. And that was their worship, the chief of the gods. And if you look at Enlil, notice he has horns on his head, he has feet like a lion in front and feet like an eagle in back, body of a bull, and he's got a tail of a scorpion. Everything about him is that of a destroyer. You see, these priests knew something about what Lucifer was doing through the serpent. If you go to India, you'll find that serpent represents almost everything in India. Here the serpent represents the great canopy of the heavens, the 7 planetary gods, the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. But also the serpent represented fertility. The serpent represented wisdom and knowledge. Even in Palestine, Canaan, where the children of Israel was established by God, the old Philistines worshipped a 7-headed serpent. Notice this helmet, a Philistine helmet. And you see one serpent coming down from heaven, and it's joined by 6 others, representing the sun, moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So each one of these cultures worship the serpent. Why? Friends, the only answer is Satan had established a religion of the serpent, and every culture that rebelled against God adopted the false teaching. Go to Egypt, and there you'll see the urea, or the sacred asp, represented Upper Egypt. On the graves, they put the symbol of the wings of Egypt, symbolizing Horus. But notice this, the 2 serpents intertwined around a red globe. That red disc and those 2 serpents represent Ra, Aman, and Osiris, the great sun god. The Trinity of the Sun is symbolized as a winged serpent again. Now this is Isis and her sister, supposedly created by the energy fields of the serpent. The serpents came to represent almost everything of a spiritual nature in Egypt. On one of these reliefs of the Book of the Dead, notice that the king, the departed spirit of the king, is represented by a winged serpent, the immortality of the soul. And on either side of Tutankhamun's chair that was discovered by Carter in the Valley of the Kings we find that on either side of it is a magnificent winged serpent. You see, Lucifer in heaven was the covering cherub. And on either side of the kings in his kingdom throughout this world, he places cherubim, or covering cherubim, as he duplicates what he remembered from the heavenly courts as he tries to set himself up as God on this earth. Even Tutankhamun as a child had on either side of him a little winged serpent in two little cases. Now notice this winged serpent placed on the lid of a sarcophagus. It's leaning up against the pillar. You can see the sarcophagus off to your right. But notice that the serpent on it is symbolized as a flying serpent, but its body is convoluted all the way up the side of that lid. That convoluted body represents the whole concept of evolution. It represents the transmigration of the soul towards heaven through the energy of the serpent. You see how Satan is trying to take the place of Jesus, trying to take the place of Michael. He's trying to say that he is the source of life. Just believe the teachings of the serpent and you will become as God. The same thing is reflected in Hatshepsut's temple tomb in Upper Egypt. There, all the way up into the sacred precincts of that temple, the pathway that goes up has a railing on either side of it that is a winged serpent with a body convoluting all the way to the sanctuary. And interesting enough, if you go to Central America where they worship the god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god again, you see, even there they worship the winged serpent. You're looking across a courtyard at Chichen Itza, and notice that the temple on the other side, all the way up the stairway into the temple up above representing the heavenly courts, is the body of a serpent. See the head down there? The convoluted body went all the way to the top as you had to pass through the winged serpent in order to get to heaven. Quetzalcoatl is pictured here having the face of a man, and I want you to notice that he has feathers coming out all around him. He's a flying serpent man. Notice that the face of the man is coming out of a great mouth there with teeth, the mouth of the serpent. Now you look at that for a minute, and what is it symbolizing? What is it saying? That a man came out of the mouth of a serpent, or intelligence came out of the mouth of a serpent, or that Eve heard the voice of a man coming out of the mouth of the serpent. This is evidence to this early legend, and it's found everywhere in the world. But I want you to notice that below that head is the blazing sun. As the sun in many of these cultures is equated with this serpent as it flies through the heavens. You see, the sun looks like gold as it moves through the heavens, just as the serpent did in Eden. In Mexico, the serpent god is called Quetzalcoatl. It has horns like a cow or a bull. It has the mouth of a jaguar, and it has the feather of an eagle. You go back to the description around the throne of God in Revelation chapter 4, and it has a face, the eyes of a man. You'll notice that the man, the bull, the eagle, and the lion are the creatures that Lucifer knew existed around the throne of God when he was a covering cherubim, and he's trying to duplicate this in the religions of the world today. Even as high up as Mississippi in the United States, these mound builders that don't appear to have any connection with the Middle East or India or the Orient have built a mound that is 1,300 feet in length. It has 7 convolutions in it, and if you look up at the head of it, it's made up of a V and of an O. Friends, the only place where the V and the O come from is from the back of the cobra, and there are no cobras in the United States. This religion of the serpent has passed down from one occult priesthood to another all the way down through the years as man scattered throughout the world from the time of Babylon. You go to the Orient today and everything is symbolized by that serpent. The energy fields, the male, the female, the yin and the yang, the knowledge, wisdom is all symbolized by a serpent. In India, the energy points in the body, the chakra points, supposedly are the serpent energy. Look at the symbol here. It shows 3 serpents all moving around in a rotation. This rotation that goes clockwise represents the creative forces of nature. So Satan is symbolizing himself as the creator. He's symbolizing himself as the savior. He's symbolizing himself as the life giver. He's trying to take the place of God in the minds of men. This is an entrance way into a business in Chinatown in San Francisco. And again, you see the serpent as a being and puffs of fire coming out of its mouth. That fire represents the electrical energies, the great light of Lucifer. And here you see the lamps in Chinatown. It shows two serpents intertwined, representing the balance of the positive and negative, good and evil. Lucifer is trying to say that he's the god of both good and the god of both good